All right, so some good news. The Supreme Court rules in favor of black Alabama voters in an unexpected defense of the Voting Rights Act. Now, this article continues. Chief Justice John Roberts and Justice Brett Kavanaugh aligned with the court's liberals in affirming a lower court ruling that found a likely violation of the Voting Rights Act in an Alabama congressional map with one majority black seat out of 7 districts in a state where more than 1 in 4 residents is black. How does that even happen? The state will now have to draw a new map for next year's elections. The decision was keenly anticipated for its potential effect on control of the closely divided U.S. House of Representatives. Because of the ruling, new maps are likely in Alabama and Louisiana that could allow Democratic-leaning black voters to elect their preferred candidates in 2 more congressional districts, which is good. Do not know why the change of heart, but okay. The outcome was unexpected in that the court had allowed the challenged Alabama map to be used in the 2022 elections, and in arguments last October, the justices appeared willing to make it harder to challenge redistricting plans as racially discriminatory under the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Chief Justice himself suggested last year that he was open to changes in the way courts weigh discrimination claims under the part of the law known as Section 2. But on Thursday, Roberts wrote that the court was declining to recast our Section 2 case law as Alabama requests. Roberts also was part of conservative high court majorities in earlier cases that made it harder for racial minorities to use the Voting Rights Act in ideologically divided rulings in 2013 and 2021. I would love to know what his change of heart was. The other 4 conservative justices dissented Thursday. Justice Clarence Thomas wrote the decision forces Alabama to intentionally redraw its long-standing congressional districts so that black voters can control a number of seats roughly proportional to the black share of the state's population. Section 2 demands no such thing, and if it did, the Constitution would not permit it. What the hell is wrong with Clarence Thomas? Talk about going against your own best interest. What is wrong with him? Think about it. He's saying that just because black people are a majority in a state doesn't mean that they should be allowed to the district shouldn't be allowed to reflect that. What? How on earth does he even begin to justify that? The Biden administration sided with black voters in Alabama. Attorney General Merrick Garland applauded the ruling. Today's decision reflects efforts to further erode fundamental voting rights protections and preserves the principle that in the United States, all eligible voters must be able to exercise their constitutional right to vote free from discrimination based on their race. Evan Milligan, a black voter and the lead plaintiff in the case, said the ruling was a victory for democracy and people of color. We are grateful that the Supreme Court upheld what we knew to be true, that everyone deserves to have their vote matter and their voices heard. Today is a win for democracy and freedom, not just in Alabama, but across the United States, Milligan said. Alabama Republican Party Chairman John Wall said in a statement that state lawmakers would comply with the ruling. Regardless of our disagreement with the court's decisions, we are confident the Alabama legislature will redraw district lines that ensure the people of Alabama are represented by members who share their beliefs, while following the requirements of applicable law. Considering they didn't before, why are you so confident now? Oh my God. But Steve Marshall, the state's Republican Attorney General, said he expects to continue defending the challenged map in federal court, including at a full trial. Although the majority's decision is disappointing, this case is not over, Marshall said in the statement. I really, really wonder if if the roles were reversed and black people were doing this to whites, even though whites had a majority in the state, if they would be saying the same thing, because of course they wouldn't. We all know why they're saying this. Duell Ross, a civil rights lawyer who argued the case at the Supreme Court, said the justices have validated the lower court's view in this case. A full trial doesn't seem a good use of Alabama's time, resources, or the money of the people to continue to litigate their case. Yeah, like that's ever stopped a bigot. The case stems from challenges to Alabama's 7-district congressional map, which includes one district in which black voters form a large enough majority that they have the power to elect their preferred candidate. The challengers said that one district is not enough, pointing out that overall, Alabama's population is more than 25% black. A 3-judge court with 2 appointees of former President Donald Trump had little trouble concluding that the plan likely violated the Voting Rights Act by diluting the votes of black Alabamians. That likely violation was the standard under which the preliminary injunction was issued by the 3-judge panel, which ordered a new map drawn. But the state quickly appealed to the Supreme Court, where 5 conservative justices prevented the lower court ruling from going forward. At the same time, the court decided to hear the Alabama case. What? Louisiana's congressional map had separately been identified as probably discriminatory by a lower court. That map, too, remained in effect last year and now will have to be redrawn. The National Redistricting Foundation said in a statement that its pending lawsuit over congressional districts in Georgia and Texas also could be affected. Separately, the Supreme Court in the fall will hear South Carolina's appeal of a lower court ruling that found Republican lawmakers strip black voters from a district to make it safer for a Republican candidate. That case could also lead to a redrawn map in South Carolina, where 6 U.S. House members are Republicans and 1 is a Democrat. Partisan politics also underlies the Alabama case. Republicans who dominated elective office in Alabama have been resistant to creating a second district with a Democratic-leaning black majority, or close to one, that could send another Democrat to Congress. The judges found that Alabama concentrated black voters in one district while spreading them out among the others to make it much more difficult to elect more than one candidate of their choice. Alabama's black population is large enough and geographically compact enough to create a second district, the judges found. Denying discrimination, Alabama argued that the lower court ruling would have forced it to sort voters by race. Instead, it was taking a race-neutral approach to redistricting. Sure you are. At arguments in October, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson scoffed at the idea that race could not be part of the equation. Jackson, the court's first black woman, said that constitutional amendments passed after the Civil War and the Voting Rights Act a century later were intended to do the same thing, make black Americans equal to white citizens. So that is that article, and agreed. I mean, I just do not understand what they're scared of. Oh, wait. I know what Republicans are scared of. They're scared that they're losing control. And, instead of trying to come up with policies that would make the majority of people want to vote for you, they have to do these tricks to ensure that those people don't get a voice. So they won't have to give up power, and they won't have to make policies that are, popular. They can continue just concentrating on their little enclave of support. Whether it be their donors or just rural old white people who are racist as fuck, or whatever they see their base as. They've decided that their base are not and never will be black people, because I have no idea. I mean, do they honestly think that their base is going to grow at this point? Probably not. No, it's probably going to just continue to shrink. So I fail to see why they're going the route of let's do these voting tricks to prevent people from having their voices heard, and let's so we can stay in power, rather than contemplate, oh, I don't know, not being jackasses. It's just mind-boggling that, that if you had to choose between advocating for stances that are popular, or that are, oh, I don't know, constitutional at least, if not popular, or do whatever you can to keep power at all costs, except giving people what they want. I fail to see how that choice gets made, how you decide that I would rather go through all these burning hoops to prevent people from voting, or to make their votes count, but I won't do anything to make their lives better. I just don't understand how anyone can think like that. Because a lot of these voters, they don't vote just because of the color of their skin. They vote because of policies everybody worries about: education, housing, um, just living a better life, having access to services and utilities. That's what everybody worries about. They're not concentrating on, oh, I have black skin, so I have to vote this way. No, that's not the way it works. So I just don't see why people think that this is a viable strategy to prevent black voters from voting, when there are plenty of white voters who are like, yeah, I'm sick of your shit. I want a better life. And they probably want their black neighbors to have a better life too, because they actually possess empathy. I just don't understand how these people think. I mean, fine, be racist, but you would think that they would want to do what's politically viable. And it would be much easier to be politically viable to appeal to as many people as possible, rather than just preventing them from having their voices heard. I just do not see how they think that this is a politically viable position. It makes no sense as a human, it makes no sense politically. I just don't see why they continue, and why they think that this is a winning strategy. It's just mind boggling. And so many people are doing it. Hell, Wisconsin also has gerrymandered as fuck maps. So, same thing here. Why? I mean, if you have to go through all this hard work just to prevent people's voices from being heard, just so you can stay in power, and you think that that makes more sense than trying to appeal to those voters, and, you know, actually being in office for the right reason, which is to help people rather than just have power. I guess that's it. They just care about power and they don't give a shit about anybody. And so this has never been about helping people but themselves. That is the only explanation for how they could think that any of this makes sense. because it's just stupid. I just do not know how else to put it. It's just stupid. If you actually got into politics for the correct reason, then you should be willing to try and win people's votes, not suppress it because you know that you will never win otherwise. It just, I can see why people are so frustrated with politics because there's so many politicians who just want to enrich themselves and forget everybody else, that I can see why people get frustrated. I mean, why get involved in voting or politics at all if you're going to feel like your vote doesn't matter because they're going to find a way to steal it. So, but anyway, good news nonetheless. So I'm happy for that. And I will see you guys next time.